Hello! Today we're going to be talking about our top 5 rides in the whole of Disney World. So firstly for me is Summit Plummet at Blizzard Beach. This 120-foot body slide at Blizzard Beach is really fun. It's quite a thrill dropping that far. In fact, you move so fast the water can even bruise your skin. Now what I like about this ride is the fact it's just so high. I really enjoy water slides, which I found out on a holiday there. So you refused to go on Summit Plummet, didn't you?
I did refuse, yes.
Why is that?
Because I wasn't feeling particularly well, and I had a bad experience at Typhoon Magoon on a similar one, which was about half the size, 70 foot.
It's Humongous Cowabunga.
Humongous Cowabunga, which is about 70 foot. And I didn't have a particularly good experience on that, so I definitely wasn't going to do one at 120 feet. But I watched you go on it a few times.
I had heard about this slide throughout the whole holiday. It's one of the tallest water slides in the world, so of course all that notoriety, I had to go to Blizzard Beach. We went out of our way to go there.
We did.
And I hit that slide and it was fun. It's definitely worth going there. Blizzard Beach is on the older end of the water parks, but doesn't mean the rides aren't fun.
I think it's a really good park if you've got really young children as well. Typhoon Lagoon is more scaled for older children and adults, and I think there's a lot more for kids to do at Blizzard Beach. Right,
so next for me is Mission Space. Now, there's 2 versions. Mine's the orange one. I thought this was a really unique experience. I'd never felt anything like this before.
Neither.
Such a weird feeling.
And I've never been on it, considering how many times I've been to Epcot.
How many times have you been?
6 times.
6 times. This was my first time.
And this was my first time doing the ride. I didn't actually know that there was a ride in there, because Epcot there's a lot of places that look kind of like things you just walk through, or shops, and I wasn't really big into simulators then, and actually it was the weirdest simulator I've probably experienced while we were there. I think not just that, just the experience generally, it really felt like you were lifting off.
So what it is, it's a centrifuge, and it's actually quite comparable to what training you get to go on a rocket, isn't it? The G's are actually quite similar that you experience.
Yeah. So the way they designed the ride is you're in a little capsule. There's 4 of you across?
There was 4.
4 of us. So we were a party of 3, but we had an additional guy as the navigator, I think it was. You'll have a role each, and then you have to push buttons at certain times that the person from wherever their shoe's meant to be from tells you to press. I was the pilot, and you were...
The roles don't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. But you're in a row of 4, and it's quite... What's the word?
It's very tight.
It's quite tight. And you've probably got enough room to sort of put your arm out, not even fully, maybe at an angle like this. And you all have a job to do. And the way they've designed it is there's multiple in the circle, and I believe it spins you around like a centrifuge. Yeah. Which gives you the feeling of lifting off.
What was weird for me was just the feeling you get. It's sort of like pushing your skin, it's pulling your skin back. It's just such a weird experience. I started freaking out at first because I was like, what is this feeling?
I did, yeah.
I started having a bit of a panic attack just because all the rides give me a bit of a panic. But this one was just so weird. It freaked me out. But then, your roll, I had to push a button. That's all it is. And I moved my hand up, and I wasn't expecting it to be so hard to move my hand up.
It was pushing, all the force was pushing you against it. So I think that's why they gave you a button to press, because they know that with the centrifuge, you're going to struggle, and you're going to be like, what is this? Because we've been on simulator rides before that, haven't we? And we've never... nothing like Transformers and Spider-Man.
It's because you're actually moving. It's
nothing, because you're spinning at the same time as doing all of this, and it's the weirdest feeling. So I think just purely for the experience, it was very different.
It was good.
It was really good. Oh, and we should say the orange one is the more intense one, and the green...
Apparently green doesn't move.
No, apparently green's
not worth going
really... It's better for kids, I think, green, isn't it?
So going back to the water parks, Crush and Gusher at Typhoon Magoon. This was sort of a water coaster type thing. We didn't get any footage because we were having so much fun there.
We literally didn't film anything that day.
Yeah, we were just on the rides. So basically, It's just you sit in like a ring, a two-person. It's like a
Raft.
inflatable. You sit in
Inflatable
that.
raft.
It just goes up and down like a coaster. But it was just a good laugh, and
It was quite droppy, considering it's just water. It's just water pushing you along.
it's just drop. You
It's
go
really
along,
droppy.
drop, and there's 3 that you can go on, and they're all slightly different.
One's coconut, one's pineapple, and one's...
So I was going to get to that.
Banana.
The theming of it is it's really cool. There's something Disney do really well. Their theming, but it's like you're delivering fruit, isn't it?
Well, the story behind the whole building is that it's a place where they package and deliver fruit that went out of business, and all the shoots are for different fruit.
Yeah.
Depending on where there'd be loads of different lorries, so that's why you can choose the coconut run or the pineapple run, and each one differs slightly. There was one that we found our favourite, and I can't remember now.
I can't. There's one in the middle. I
think it was coconut.
It had a double drop, basically.
I think it was coconut, but it had the beginning was nice, but it had a double drop that was really quick succession, and we both found that hilarious. And we must have ridden it 4 times, maybe. We just kept going back on it, and the wait time was so minimal that we literally could just run on.
Yeah, that's what's great about water parks as well. It's not much wait.
So we rode that a lot.
So next for me is Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom. This was really fun, an indoor coaster, and we just didn't know what was going to happen, really. It's just lots of twists, lots of turns.
Completely in the dark.
You twist your neck around a little bit, but it's a really tight coaster, and yeah, it was a good laugh.
I think they packed a lot in, considering how small the space actually is. I mean, like I said, I've been 6 times, and I hadn't been on this either before. I hadn't ridden a lot of stuff at Epcot, really. When I went before, I just sort of liked to look at the countries, but I didn't actually stop to go on any of the rides. So I quite liked the launch at the beginning was quite nice. How you go from nothing to, I mean, it's not particularly fast compared to other things, but I just think the whole thing was very well designed, and the queue was really well designed as well. We waited for
Trope of Disney.
Yeah, we waited for 80 minutes, didn't we? The queue.
It was a long wait.
It was a long wait, but I think it was worth it because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. It's on the list, so of course it was worth it.
It made the list, so it was worth the wait. But I think everything from the queue and the ride was really good. It was really, toward the end, there's very tight spins, isn't there? I think 3 or 4 really tight spins, and that really throws you about. So if you don't like coasters that knock you left and right, it's probably not for you. But we really enjoyed it.
Right, so last for me, of my top 5, is Humunga Cowabunga, which you mentioned earlier. That's just another body slide at Typhoon Magoon. Again, didn't film it because we were having too much fun. But this was my first taste of the water slides. It was the first one I went on. And what I found fun is it gives you that gut feeling, like you're going down a drop on a roller coaster.
Belly flip.
And I just liked that. I was like, I'm going to go on this to practice for roller coasters. That was my idea. So I went down it multiple times. But it's just really good. And there's 3 of them at once, so the wait time isn't very long because 3 people can go down at once. And I mean, that's it really. It's just a short, fun body slide.
I did go on this one, and it didn't make my top 5 because I had a bad experience, and I'm not going to go into it. Jake knows what it is. I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to discuss.
Maybe we'll save that for another video.
If you want me to explain it, then I will in the video, but I'm not going to do it right now. The ride itself was great. My body didn't think so. So let's leave it at that.
All right.
So my top 5, slightly different. We've got a few that are the same. But my ultimate number 1 in Disney was Aerosmith. I really enjoyed Aerosmith. When we were queuing up, the queue itself is really minimal outside, isn't it? It's kind of boring.
All I remember
a bit
is
lame.
the heat. So it was really hot.
It was so hot, so we were really glad when the queue got inside. We waited about half an hour for that. When you get inside,
it's a bit tacky.
It's a bit tacky. It's outdated, but I think the ride's still good.
But then they had loads of bands in there because apparently it's a record label. I was really confused.
It's a record label. I knew this already, but
there was loads of bands I'd never even heard of in there.
And we probably won't ever hear of. So when you walk in, the first time I started to get nervous, and I didn't get nervous before any rides really, other than the Hulk and Rip Rocket.
Well, we all got a bit nervous.
And the point I got nervous was when you walk in, before you get on, you walk into a room where you see...
It's like you're walking into a gig, and then you see the ride, and it counts down, and then whoosh, you launch off really fast.
You walk in, and then you watch people in front of you go, and it goes from, I don't actually know the mile per hour, but it
Look.
goes from 0 to fast really quick, and you see people go.
Apparently it's the highest G
It's the highest
out of
G,
all the rides.
and you feel it in that first however many seconds it is. And then I sort of looked to Jake and my brother and my brother-in-law, and we all sort of did a little whelp.
A heart attack.
We all sort of, I remember feeling Ash's heart, and he was like, I can't do this. I was really excited to get on it, but yeah, it was nerve-wracking. And then before we got on it, there was an empty cart, so they had to do the test run, didn't they, every hour?
Oh yeah, so we had to wait.
So we had to wait, and then we were getting really nervous. And then when we sat down and then the bits came over, I think you and me were kind of, I don't know about you, but I was getting a bit...
Yeah, you got to wait a little bit.
Yeah,
but as soon as that launch is done, the ride's quite relaxing.
The ride itself is very similar to Space Mountain in the sense it's an indoor coaster, but it's a
nowhere
lot
near
more
as
extreme.
tight.
And you don't go upside down, but they do say you have upside down manoeuvres, which means that you go so far up that you feel like you're upside down, but you're not, because it's obviously not a upside down coaster. But it did feel like we were going upside down at multiple points, and it was, I don't know, I really love coasters, and I thought for an indoor coaster it was possibly one of the best ones I've been on. So my number 2 would be, and it's pretty close call because it's in itself a great ride, is Flight of Passage, hence our little statue
Avatar,
here.
Flight of Passage.
Flight of Passage. We also have another one up here, you might not be able to see her. I really like this ride. We queued for
Oh my God,
a very long time. We went back in the evening specifically just to go on this. We did have fast passes as well for another ride, but we actually ended up ditching it just so we could queue for this. We queued for...
It was 2.5 hours.
2 hours 45, I think it was.
Oh, so almost 3 hours.
And we were all delusional by the time we got to the end, because it must have been about 9 o'clock.
The ride, the wait broke me.
Yeah,
mentally.
it broke us.
But then the scary thing is apparently that queue can hold 6 hours
6 hours worth in terms of how long. Because I mean, it's a long line. It's an amazing line. I mean, they've gone to town on the decorations.
Yeah, it looked really good.
It's amazing. But after 2.5 hours, you don't care. When you get in, I don't want to ruin it for people, but just to give a brief overview. You walk in and you have sort of like a briefing, don't you, with the person on the screen. And you sit on these, they look more like bikes.
Yeah, it looks like a weird plastic bike.
Like a weird plastic hover bike. And you sit in it, and it's really odd. You have like a restraint that comes around your back and bum.
Yeah, and then
the
side of your
around
legs.
the side of your legs, around the bottom of your legs. And I didn't really understand why there was so much needed until I got on the ride. And you do wear glasses, don't you?
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
But they're not like the typical 3D stuff that you'd wear in a simulator. They're slightly different.
I think they looked exactly the same to me.
The lens was different. It wasn't dark or tinted or anything. So
well, I didn't notice. They look the same.
Anyway, so you get on, and there's basically a screen that goes from directly over you to right underneath you. The floor does go from you a little bit, and so you can lean left and right. I don't know how many of us. There was about 10 in a row, wasn't there? And everything comes up, and you are fully. It was the most amazing simulator I think I've been on, in terms of things like Transformers and Spider-Man, things like that. And you genuinely feel like you are falling, and you get the smells as well, like soaring.
You get smells.
It's 4D, so you smell the sea and you smell everything, you know. And I just think it was. They went to a lot of trouble to make it as immersive as possible.
Yeah, the restraint actually vibrates,
Yeah.
and I remember as soon as I sat down, I started bursting out laughing because it was
You
really
did.
ticklish on my
You
belly.
did. So the reason for that is you're meant to be riding
This thing.
this thing. I
The
can't
Banshee.
remember. I can't remember. Banshee. There you go.
Yeah, it's supposed to simulate it breathing.
So it's simulating you breathing around its belly, and it did work. But when we were sitting there waiting, I remember looking at you and saying, "Are your legs pulsing?"
Yeah.
And you said, "Yeah." So that was why it's to simulate you being on a dragon. And I think actually, mentally, in terms of all the senses, it really worked. I do think it was worth the 2.5 hour wait, but I will just say be prepared to wait. Unless you're lucky enough to get a fast pass, which we weren't able to. It was worth the wait. It narrowly missed out just because I really like coasters. That's the only reason why it's not number one. But in terms of a simulator, it is my number one. But it's number two in a general scheme of rides. My number 3 is Everest. I really like this ride. It wasn't as intense as Aerosmith, hence why it's not number 1. But it's something that I've wanted to go on for a really long time. When I was there last time, I think it was either due to be built or due to be open. I can't remember. But I really wanted to go on it, and we didn't get the chance. And I think it was our first park when we got there was Animal Kingdom during the day, and it was one of the first big coasters we'd been on. So it's really firmly in my memory, and I just remember really enjoying myself. It gave me the feeling of like the Hulk, but without going upside down, without all of the loops. I just thought it was really well designed. I loved the G-force in the corners. It really pushed you in, particularly on the last corner. You really get pushed into the side. The queuing system was great. I just really enjoyed it. I like how fast it goes. It went from being kind of slow to being incredibly fast, and like I said, the G-force is really good. It's 2 across, so you get a lot of room as well, and you're in sort of more of a like a tram. It's more like a tram, but it was really comfy. It was really roomy.
So there was something weird there when you get to the top.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of hairbands.
Yeah,
like people throwing their hairbands.
Initially,
out.
I thought it was part of the ride because I don't know. Sometimes
I don't know. It seems to be a thing people do.
And it just
across the whole
you
park.
stay up there for a while because you go forward and then you go backwards onto a separate track. And we had a few minutes, a couple of seconds to sit up there. And I remember looking around thinking, what is up with all these hairbands? And when we went back to Animal Kingdom to do Flight of Passage in the evening, we had fast passes booked for Everest again, which we didn't do because we were waiting in the queue. And I deliberately bought a hairband with me because I wanted to ping it off to the collection, but we didn't get a chance to do it. So if you're on there, when you get to the top of the track, you'll see what we mean. And I don't know why it's a thing, but it is. So my number 4, Jake's already covered it, but with Space Mountain, I just thought it was a really good inside coaster. It's probably one of the funnest ones at Epcot. Something I've never done before. I like the theming throughout, from the queuing system right to the end. I just like the design of it. It's quite an old ride. I just thought it was well maintained. It still had a really good effect on me. G-force was really good. It was very to-y and throwy, so it did push you around a little bit, but I like that kind of ride. And just thought generally it was really fun with the people we went on with, my brother and brother-in-law. It was just a really good time, and we all really enjoyed it. So my number 5, Jake again has already covered it, was Mission Space, just purely because I've never experienced something like that before.
It's very weird.
It was weird, a good weird, but weird, and it's the only simulator that I have genuinely felt a little bit sick on. Only for briefly, and it was only when you were taking off, because I genuinely felt like everything was pushing against me, and I'm assuming that's when the centrifuge went, but it was a really weird but great feeling, so I couldn't not include it because it's just something I've never done before, and I'd highly recommend, if you like that sort of thing, to do it. If you get motion sick very easy, then do not do it or do the green one, but the orange one was quite intense just for that moment. The rest of it I wouldn't say was intense at all, but you are given like a warning and a briefing card before you go in to make sure you're going to choose the right one for you. And my brother-in-law just said, "Oh, to hell with that, let's just do the orange," and I just took his word for it, so it was good. But yeah, there is an option for a smoother ride, but if you do get sick, I wouldn't go on it, but we loved it. Of all the rides we went on, I've never experienced it.
It was unique. That's why I put it on my list.
Yeah, that's why it's on my list, because it is unique. There's nothing else.
My comments would be Everest. I wasn't a big fan of Everest personally. It was the first coaster I've been on in years, and I didn't find it very intense, and I'm quite scared of all the coasters.
Yeah,
you Everest,
get quite a lot of
I wasn't so bothered about that.
It's quite a good ride for people who aren't into coasters or aren't hardcore into coasters, because you still get the feeling of the adrenaline, but without any of the movements that are too intense. So I think even for people who think they can't do coasters, you could do Everest and Space Mountain easily.
Oh yeah,
easily.
Avatar. I don't know what I think about simulators personally. That's something I want to talk about in a different video. I wouldn't rate them over actual rides that actually move you.
I feel like simulators should have their own list, just because if I had to compare, like I have here, Avatar to a roller coaster, Aerosmith, I'm going to choose a coaster because that's so much more thrilling.
Well, something that sort of made it a bit weird. This happened on the Simpsons ride in Universal as well, which is
we'll
quite
talk
similar.
about in another video.
But if you look over, you can see other rows of people, all looking at the same screen. Like they're sort of slightly blocked off.
It can pull you out of the moment a little bit as well.
I mean, I enjoyed Avatar, but I just don't know where I stand on simulators right now. I think it's as well them.
The fact that we went on so many other rides. There's just so many things to consider, which is why I think we need to do a separate one, literally just for simulators. Because writing this list for Disney was ridiculous because there were so many we were forgetting. So we try to be.
We need to go back there.
Yeah, we do. Which is why Jake included water parks as well, because obviously Disney is part of Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Magoon, so you have to consider that as well as all the other 4 parks. So yeah, it was a toughie.
Just a quick note. I didn't know anything about Disney World or anything going into a holiday there, and these simulator rides was just not something I was expecting. I didn't know that they were a thing.
If I had to choose the feeling of moving, I choose moving, which is why I choose coasters over a simulator. Also, we should say there was one ride we didn't go on that I really wanted to go on, but we didn't have a chance, and he was having anxiety over, was Tower of Terror.
That's something I'll definitely go on next time I go.
I wanted to do it, but the day we were at, I still call it MGM because that's what I've known it as. It's not, it's Hollywood Studios now. The day we went, I think it went up to 95 minutes.
We just didn't have time.
And we didn't have to, it was so hot. I think it was 38 degrees that day. We'd just come off Aerosmith and there was no way.
And then we were sort of with a large party. And
there's 10 of us in total, and we had 2 children under 5, so we were really aware that we didn't want to make them wait. They went to see Indiana Jones whilst we did Aerosmith, but we couldn't justify waiting. We tried to get fast passes multiple times and we just couldn't get it. So when we go back, I definitely want to do it. I'm making you go on it. I know you don't like it.
Well, no, I was going to say, I have a feeling if I am to go on it, it probably would be on my list, because I watched a video of it and it looks really cool.
Yeah. I
just don't like droppers.
No, and we'll talk about Doctor Doom in Universal in a different video because we have some great footage of Jake's reaction from that.
It's terrible.
But it's on our list that we want to do, and if we had done it, it would definitely been on both of our lists. I'm absolutely positive about that. But we didn't get a chance, and we did try, so...
But yeah, personally, just to round things off, my highlights were definitely the water parks.
Yeah. I think mine particularly in terms of water park was Typhoon Lagoon, just because I've been there before, but I didn't have a lot of memories about it, and it was great. It was really, we had a great day. That day we went back, me and Jake we went off and we didn't come back for hours. We just had a really good day. We hit every ride multiple times, and it was just, that's how you want it to be when you're at a theme park. And it was just great that we were in the water because we were boiling hot as well. In terms of, not including water parks, favourite park, Disney park, not including water parks.
Well, you're just throwing that out
there.
I
am throwing that
suddenly.
Yeah.
Probably Hollywood Studios.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems to have like the classic rides. It's got the
Yeah.
Star Wars area, which we just missed.
Yeah, we just missed it. We just missed Galaxy's Edge. But I have said that I don't think I'd want to be there on opening week because it'd be crazy.
But yeah, Aerosmith was there. Even though I found it a bit weird, like, cause I thought, why is this Disney? Why is Aerosmith here? It was just a bit confusing at the time. There were some other things that I wanted to go and check out, like the Indiana Jones thing. But yeah, I'd say that. What about you?
I think for rides, I think I would choose Animal Kingdom. In terms of feeling, probably Hollywood Studios, yeah.
All right, well, I think we've probably talked for far too long.
Yeah, we have. Considering it's meant to be a short video.
As you can tell, we've got lots to talk about, so
Yeah.
there'll be more videos coming out in the future. So subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you in the next video.